Alright YouTubes? Alright YouTube. In today's video we've got a BMW M4 to paint, and it's in for a new bumper, but we've got to paint the front end for this, and the reason being it's just for colour. To me it does seem quite excessive, and let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's excessive to have to paint the whole front of this car just for a new bumper? But the trouble is it's the colour, and with this colour, Yas Marina Blue, it is a little bit troublesome. There's a couple of shades on my system, and I've done it before and it's not perfect. So it's a pastel colour with effect in it, so I think that makes it worse than just as pastel sometimes. But it's always difficult to get that pastel shading to look right, and with a lot of these pastel colours, they never ever look quite right. And so this is a pastel with pearl in it, so it's got quite a bit of effect in it, pearl and metallic, which sort of makes it easier to blend. But trouble with these BMWs, you've got that nose cone piece, it butts right up edge to the bonnet, and then you've got it to the wings. And on this vehicle, don't know if it'll show up on camera, it looks like this bonnet has been blended halfway up. So I don't know if it shows on the camera, but there's definitely a colour discrepancy there. These wings are definitely original. It's had a decent paint job on this bonnet, but there's a few little telltale signs, a couple of nibs that have been sanded out and polished. But overall, looks a decent job. And again, it looks different here, and the gapping's not right. And when we looked underneath, the nuts have been undone because the paint's missing off them. So it looks like, to me, with all these jobs, you have to do a bit of investigation work to see what someone's done, to try and work it out so you can get to where you need to be with it. So when you're dealing with work that's already been done on a vehicle, you have to become a bit of a detective and try and work out what previous work's been done and why it's been done, so then you can do your bit on there and not have any problems with the previous work, if you know what I'm saying. We spectroed this bonnet, and when we done it, I never really noticed any colours or anything. I took a spectro from there, and the results I got from the spectro were really, really far out, and even optimising it, a recalculated formulation, was still miles out. So I thought, oh, what am I going to do here? Obviously I need to match here, and then after looking further into it, definitely a colour discrepancy there. But when you get to about here, there's not. The original front bumper definitely had paint. It had a few bits of paint, to be fair. So whether they had to paint the front of this bonnet to match the nose cone piece, maybe it might have been a thing, but then you'd think they'd have to blend into the wings as well, or whether it just had some stuff on the bonnet and, you know, chips and stuff. But it's definitely sort of had a blend about halfway up on this bonnet, just from where it's not edge to edge here, and then here the match is good. So I've done another spectro image, took it off the wing this time because I know that's original paint on there, and that result has come out a lot better. So I could be here all day spraying out the shades. I've got 2 shades on the system, spraying out the optimized recalculated versions, doing all that, having 3-4 spray outs, going out, checking looks okay here, doesn't look okay here, checking angles, checking light, outside, inside. I could spend forever and a day doing all that, and then spraying the bumper, and then getting it at a certain angle and a certain light and still not being quite right. So I'm going to just blend the whole front end. We've got allowance, we've got permission to do that. Pretty straightforward job, but yeah, it comes in for a bumper, and we've got to paint the whole front end. Just going to get this prepped up. One saving grace, I can't really see any stone chips on the bonnet, which is good, and there's a couple of small ones on the wings, so we can take care of them. So paint the front end, paint the new bumper, no repairs to do, no priming to do really, so pretty straightforward. Prep it and we can get straight in the booth for paint. Going to get this prepped up. What I'm going to do is just 800 grit the whole lot, and 1000 grit soft pad, and then grey scotch wet normal blended. See, I'll just prep the whole lot up for blending, and I'm probably just going to colour right into the wings, right up into the bonnet. So, you know, it's going to be hard when it's sanded for me to know whether I'm covering a bit that's, you know, already been painted and base coated and blended. So I'm just going to do what I would normally do on the front end, prep it all up for blending, and then just blend up into the corners, blend across the wings on both sides. So that being said, I'm going to get this all cleaned up and start prepping it. Yeah, but them new pads are equivalent.
500, isn't it?
You know, them green ones are 600 to 1,000.
What, depending on wet or dry?
Yeah, so I would say 600's dry.
Yeah.
And then it's 600 wet. Basically says on the.
No, if it's wet, then it makes it coarser than that, technically. Red finer, sorry.
Yeah, so make it finer. So 600 to 1,000, 600 would be dry.
Yeah, 1,000
would be wet. That's right, isn't it? 'Cause 800 wet and dry, you do that dry.
That's 1,200 wet, isn't it?
Yeah, 800 wet is equivalent to 500 dry, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you drop down. So they're for finishing primer and that.
Right.
Then they got brown, which is 320 to 500. So if you've done them wet, they'd be 500. 320 they'd be dry. And then they got super fine, which is blue, and they're 1,000 to 1,500.
Right. You gotta look at getting them then.
Well, they are quite good, so they don't clog up like these. They keep going.
I found the green ones were good for like practice paint.
Yeah, but it's what it says on the website. I had a quick look. It says use brown for prepping, paint and lacquer and surfaces prior to primer.
Yeah.
Then it says use the green for prepping primer, old coatings, lacquer, all the rest of it,
Okay.
prior to base coat.
Yeah.
And then it says use purple for keying up, lacquer, all the rest of it, for clear coat and blending, it says.
That's what we used to do, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
So I have to give them, see what they like.
They're nice in your hands as well.
Yeah, they just sat for ages. They're double-sided, they just keep, they don't clog up, do they, like these? They're not as chuck away as like these are. Where they got the built-in sponge. The trouble is you don't know, when you reuse one, which side you use the most.
I know, like stuff, this edge of this bonnet or something, these pads are, no, they're not flexible, are they?
No, look, they just clog up, they just don't get anywhere with them. But obviously I didn't want to, I was going to get the 5 ones, they're 50 quid for a box.
Quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a few in there, though, and they're double-sided, aren't they?
But they're easily lasting.
There's like 100 in there, but it's double-sided.
These don't last no time.
No, these are just chuck away, they're quick scut and then bin them. I didn't want to try some and then you can see the sandwich
Yeah, I know.
These are testing one. The purple ones and the Kent ones used to be fine with lacquer, but they're really good for prepping up and blending, really quick. Especially if you're just doing stuff by hand rather than bumper.
Yeah, bumper corners and stuff, they'd be good, wouldn't they?
If you wanted to use them wet, you could use them wet as well for scotching up. So that's what we would use them for in a way, like a scotch.
Yeah.
Probably good for like a blend area as well.
And
They'll be 1500 when they're wet.
Yeah.
I've just found them Kent ones were a bit scory, weren't they?
Could, yeah.
In curves.
Yeah. I know, because sometimes if you're prepping a wing up for lacquer, the DA, where there's so many lines on them
Oh, that's a
nowadays,
good point.
yeah, so you want to do it by hand in the scotch. But these are no good for that.
They're alright just to take the top off, aren't they?
Yeah.
Give you a bit of a kick.
And then sometimes, like, you need to take the finish down, don't you? Yeah. Because otherwise you're lacquering over the top of that and it makes your paper look
So this is why I'm taking the fat edges out.
Yeah. Because if it's shriveled underneath, you're putting your coat on top of that.
Yeah, you already put it on top of texture, don't you?
Yeah. found where that little bit goes. The other bit you got sent, it was like 20p or something. There's like pins on the hinges.
I thought it might be. Is there one of each? Like two?
Yeah.
They've only sent one?
Yeah.
Well, one of them might need upgrading. So
Yeah.
the two piece, we could separate it from that.
Well, I think that's how the door comes off. I need to have a look. So there's like a pin, and then that little metal bit locks the pin in.
Yeah, it's old school. Did you
Is
find
that how it'll come out?
Probably, because then we ain't got to disturb it
on the post.
Yeah. Not sure. Did you find the bolts for the catch? Unless they pulled out. But
it's weird, isn't it? They're normally like decent sized torques, aren't they?
Yeah, they normally got thingy on.
Loctite.
Yeah. I can't figure out what his number is. I've got their landline number.
Do them pins need hammering out then?
Well, I've got a thingy in it.
What's that? What, a tool?
Yeah. Something like that. If not, we would put like mould works on it. There is a tool for it. I'll have to have a look.
Right. Well, it's just,
So I really leave it on now, won't we? And,
yeah, do you want me to leave it then as it is?
yeah. If it's ready to come off,
Yeah.
we need the fucking bolts for the catch.
Well, yeah, ideally. Well, I'll put the check strap back on and then we'll leave it as it is.
Yeah, just have you looked in all the glove box and everything?
Oh, I'll have another look. I can strip the rest of the door.
Or under the seating, I just took them off and chucked them in there.
Right.
Have a good look around, get the torch and have a look. Right then YouTube, that's a BMW M4 all painted. So I thought I'd just give you a quick look at it before we demask it and fit it all back up. So this is, I painted this Friday afternoon and now this is Monday morning. It had a bake, put it on bake about 15 minutes after I painted it, 60 degrees for half an hour. And yeah, I'll just give you a quick look at it. I'm just really pleased with the overall finish, and with the ETR additive in, it's definitely improved the appearance of the job afterwards. There can always be a slight little bit of dye back and a little bit of, you know, bit of sinkage, bit of clear that's drawn into the base coat. It's inevitable. You see it on brand new cars, you know, and I just find this way with this ETR, it can be a bit finicky with you're under pressure a little bit with all the blending and everything, and a bit more to think about, but speed wise is fantastic. The appearance of it is fantastic, and I think it improves the clear coat. Give you a look at it. And you know, it's going to want a little polish. There's a few little nibs, couple of little nibs here and there. And I missed a couple of chips, which this bonnet had been painted, and I just missed them. They were, so I've dubbed them in. They weren't showing up white, and I just missed them, and I was a bit annoyed with myself, to be honest. I missed these, but it is only down for blending this front end. A couple of biggish nibs, but overall really clean. I find the job seemed to be a bit cleaner with it, less touching, less blowing. You know, once you're doing it, I find the jobs are cleaner. The base coat's definitely smoother. You're not stacking up layers and creating more and more overspray over the sheeting and stuff. So all these things are a plus for me on this ETR additive, and blended really well. I'm pleased with how it's blended. And I said in previous video, I was going to bin off that CC14 clear coat because I've had some trouble with it, just sort of reacting funny, and I found that it's microwaving it, I think, was doing it. So I've stopped doing that now, and I try to warm the clear. It's not too bad, my clear, anyway, because it's in my heated cabinet. But if I want a little bit of extra warmth in there for flow and stuff, I just warm it now with a heater or bring it in here. And I find the sweet spot's around 20 degrees. So this is all a sweet spot for me now with this. I love this clear. When it goes right, it goes lovely. I find with it, you've got to do the full thinners. I do 5%, which is on the system with a CC14 fix. And then I do squirt a little bit extra in there. And I find one skinny coat and then a good wet one, and to leave it literally a couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes between coats. I find if you put the first coat on a bit heavy, and then if you leave it for too long, you've created a textured surface for that second coat, and it seems to go really orange peely then. It is quite a peely product, and it's probably down to the fixed tropic element of it. But less is more with it, I find. It's designed for being stacked up in layers and putting heavy layers on. That's what it's designed for, and good stability and all the rest of it. But I find, yeah, sort of it's 1 3/4 coats really is perfect for it. And to get it on there quick, I've sort of changed with this clear coat. I changed my procedure where I'd normally go and clean my base coat gun out in between coats. But you know, a job like this, if I've put a coat over the front end, then go and do the bumper, that's, you know, a minute or two putting the first coat on the bumper. I literally leave it another minute or so, and then straight back on with a clear coat again. Get them 2 coats on back to back really. So again, that's speed. That increases speed. So the ETR increases all the speed. And then with the CC14 as well, getting that on quick. Yeah, really pleased with it. I'm really pleased with the results.